All right, so if you made it this far with me, you figured out I'm kind of a dork. I like Star Wars, I like superheroes, and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's all kind of cool these days. Um, I maybe was born a little too soon, right? Superhero T-shirts, Star Wars stuff is kind of looked at as being pretty awesome today. People thought I was odd back in the day, but maybe that wasn't the only reason they thought I was odd. But if you take a look here and you are a keen X Men fan, you may be asking yourself, wait a minute, isn't that where the final battle in X Men Origins Wolverine is set? And that is very true. It's on 3 Mile Island. And instead of it being a place where a nuclear meltdown happened in American history, it was a place where Wolverine and the man who would become Deadpool had this epic fight. Unfortunately, that's not actually what happened. It was actually just a nuclear meltdown. But let's talk about the worst nuclear accident in our nation's history. Pennsylvania, March 28th of 1979. A very young Jason Bagwell is 2 months old when an alarm goes off at a nuclear power plant on 3 Mile Island. 3 Mile Island was in the middle of a river um, outside or in Pennsylvania, and this meltdown was pretty much anybody that didn't like nuclear energy's worst nightmare. Um, Nuclear power basically runs, you've got this nuclear material that's used to superheat water. The steam coming off the water runs turbines, and then the water condenses again, and it's just kind of a cycle. It's supposed to be a very clean energy. You're not putting anything out into the environment, but obviously there are hazards to handling nuclear material. You've got radiation and things that can be a big deal. So these warning bells go off, and people are wanting to know what is happening in these particular places. Well, what they figured out was that there had been a slight release of medication. Said there's no evidence that was going to cause cancer or anything that we see in like the aftermath of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but it was enough to really, really scare people. And so what we see here from 1979 on is a reluctance of people to build new nuclear power plants or to want those close. We actually had one in Scott County here, one near our area. Marble Hill was supposed to have a nuclear power plant that never ends up being finished because of, pardon the pun, but the fallout of the 3 Mile Island incident. Um, Cleanup starts 1979. You can see Jimmy Carter here touring the facility. He's basically going to show how safe it is, right? We're not going to let the president walk into some place that's full of radiation. It doesn't officially end until 1993, and it cost almost $1 billion to clean up. And again, this wasn't something where there was any kind of catastrophic failure or loss of nuclear material, but it shows just how, if it's not handled correctly, how dangerous this type of technology can be. There are anti nuclear protests that start to take place around the country, and people saying, we don't want this kind of power. And so, really, since then, there's not. Every once in a while, you hear government officials talk about starting this kind of stuff up, but there aren't new nuclear power plants that are built in the United States. These have been different places around the world. Japan, several years ago, there was a tsunami that threatened one of the nuclear power plants that was there. Usually, the only time you hear about these things is when something bad is going to happen, but they do use them in different places around the world. Probably most famous is in the city of Chernobyl. If you've seen the last Die Hard movie, or there's one of the Fallout games is set in Chernobyl. This is in the Ukraine, part of the Soviet Union at that point, and there is a massive um, nuclear meltdown in Chernobyl. HBO did a really good miniseries that was kind of all about it. But in 1986, there's this massive meltdown, and the Soviets basically try to cover it up. They don't want the rest of the world to know what's going on. So there's a cloud of radiation that ends up going over Europe, dropping in different places. People are just super panicked. I'll put a couple of videos up on the playlist of some newscasts afterwards so you can see just kind of what the general feeling was as people were dealing with this. It leads to um, a an effort for glasnost, or an openness of the press and information in the Soviet Union that will follow pretty quickly beyond this. Basically, guys, you got to be honest with the world with what's going on, especially if it's going to put other countries in danger. But Chernobyl is still one of those places where the local wildlife, the local flora and fauna are affected. There are people that live close, but for the most part, this entire city is abandoned because of the fear of radiation and what radiation can do to the human body. So I will put that up, like I said, some videos up on the playlist. If you're interested in learning a little more about Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island, I'll get some resources up there for you.